Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, we used a really fun team featuring Xerneas, which feels very festive for today. And yeah, just wanted to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody, and thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. This last year has been an absolute blast, and yeah, it's probably been one of, if not the most active year that I've had on YouTube. So I just appreciate everyone for continuing to come out and watch these videos, even though we're over 2 years into Sword and Shield at this point. It means a lot. And so yeah, hope you continue to enjoy. I'll be, of course, doing more Sword and Shield and BDSP content, and looking forward to Series 12 as well when that rolls around. So first game of the day, and we're up against a Necrozma team. Okay, that doesn't bode super well as a Xerneas user. They also have a regular Canto Moltres, which is really cool. Wonder if it's weakness policy on the Necrozma. That's typically what you should expect. Aleki plus Landorus is compelling here. We probably want Ensign though, right? Especially because it's weakness policy, I can actually deal sizable damage with it. I don't think I bring Thundurus because it's so weak into Necrozma, I can't really do anything against that. Bronzong's also good. Ooh, I don't know who to drop. Okay, Bronzong, Landorus, Xerneas, and Incineroar. Yeah, this is generally okay. I guess the main fear here is it's if Defiant Thundurus. And if it's Defiant Thundurus, that'd actually be really interesting given their team composition. So I guess we'll see how things shake up. But either way, this team was built by 2015 World Championship finalist BidC. So details are in the description below, as well as BidC's Twitter. And yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. Grim and Feeny. Okay. It's relatively passive, but obviously there's Calm Mind pressure from Feeny immediately. Bronzong can start Iron Defensing, which is interesting, and I can just Max Quake Feeny immediately. I mean, I probably max Landorus in this game, right? The idea of maxing Landorus and then giving Bronzong like infinite boosts honestly does not seem like a terrible plan, especially because Feeny has limited recovery, right? So when you really, like, I would expect Necrozma to be in the back, so the question is what's their final Pokemon. But I don't mind Iron Defense. I mean, the main thing is I'm worried about Feeny Calm Minding up way too much here, so I feel the need to start putting on pressure with damage immediately. You could always switch Feeny out into like Moltres or Thundurus. That would be a really cool play. But if they switch, so be it. I can at least max Rockfall that Pokemon the next turn. I guess the one annoying thing about Grimmsnarl is never knowing truly what set it is, but on a Necrozma team, I think the Light Clay dual screens makes the most sense by far. And I think that we might be in for a long game here. It's pretty interesting though, because their lead here is not very good against Xerneas, but I think from their perspective, they don't have to worry about Xerneas very much because your restricted Pokemon is Necrozma, right? And that in itself has a good matchup into Xern. So, yeah. Let's see. But the idea here is, like, Bronzong just gets to infinite boosts. They don't have something like an Urshifu that can crit through us, so between Leftovers and Protect, it's kind of hard to deal with us. And, okay, they're going to max. So, the one problematic play that can happen here, which they totally could go for, is Fake Tears into a Max Geyser. If it's anything but Fake Tears, I honestly feel fine about turn 1. I guess they could have Max Hailstorm on Feeny as well, but, like, Reflect into Geyser here makes the most sense. It's the safest play. But let's see if they actually have Fake Tears. Okay, it's Reflect. That's good. While Reflect is annoying, it certainly is fine in the sense that, like, as long as they don't pick up knockouts onto us, I'll take the trade-off. And Feeny is by far the most annoying Pokemon for my Incineroar to deal with, so this will be an interesting one where I probably don't even get a single KO during our turns of Dynamax, but that's also okay because Bronzong is going to get boosted up very quickly. And no Max Hailstorm either. Okay, good. There's Geyser. Yeah, it's going to go to Bronzong. And you can see with that special defense boost, it's really not that much damage. What's interesting this next turn is whether or not I consider max Quaking or going for a max Rockfall instead. I think I'd rather Quake. It's Leftovers Feeny. Okay, not surprising there. Yeah, we're in for a long one here. But the reason why I think this works is because my Bronzong has recovery, whereas if they have Leftovers on Feeny already, like, Leftovers is the best item in a matchup like this right now, right? I've got Instant Xerneas, right? And so Xern is really good against anything that's not Necrozma. I could see them going for a Light Screen now. The question here is whether or not I want to contemplate protecting. The other interesting decision is, do I actually target Feeny with these max quakes? Because I can knock out Grimmsnarl instead, but the thing is, Grimmsnarl honestly doesn't do very much for my opponent past it setting up screens. Okay, I'm down to protect here. And go for another Quake onto Feeny. We're just going to slowly chip away at it. Still worried about Fake Tears and Hailstorm, but I think it's most likely just Calm Mind standard Feeny with leftovers. Oh, they do have Fake Tears. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank goodness. That's something I had anticipated. Okay, that's really scary. And also, thank goodness they targeted Bronzong here rather than just doubling up onto Landorus. Okay, so now we're at +2 special defense, so even if you Fake Tears next turn, like, we'll be fine. And there's a Geyser, yep. Should be a double up in a Bronzong, right? Yeah. Okay, that was such a big protect. We got away with so much there. And that's the nice thing. I think a lot of players are willing to target Bronzong in a position like that because you just don't typically anticipate the protect because it's not that common of a move on Bronzong, honestly. But this is really nice now. Oh, I don't say if it's really nice, but we can go for a third Max Quake now. Max Rockfall is also okay if I think that into EQ is going to KO. Rain's going to expire relatively soon anyway, though, right? Yeah. Okay, so I don't mind going for Iron Defense here, and then another Max Quake into Feeny. Because it'll still be a +1. Yeah, I'll be at +1 with Bronzong, and the Rain will be up. So essentially do as much damage as that first Max Geyser did, right? Which I'm totally okay with. Like I said, I think this favors us more generally because this Bronzong is very well suited for the endgame against the rest of my opponent's team. Although, honestly, that Max Quake did not look like a very high roll, so I'm not even confident Earthquake KOs this next turn. Which is interesting. But yeah, this is, you know, the thing about a format with Dynamax, with Prankster. Okay, so we're at 54 HP. I'm going to get another Iron Defense off. Honestly, if I had known Feeny was going to take that little from Max Quake this turn, I feel like this last one was a lower roll, but I don't know if I was just eyeballing it incorrectly. Body Press may have been better just to hope that EQ finishes it off next turn. But the thing is now, Bronzong is at +4 defense, +1 special defense, and I still have to worry about Fake Tears, obviously, from the Grimmsnarl, but that's okay. And now I can start spamming Earthquake, which is quite nice. And the thing is, I think they've really struggled to deal good damage into Bronzong in this game. So, I'm not confident in EQ KOing Tapu Fini here. It's close. I feel like it really should, actually. I'd be surprised if it survived. I would just hate for it to actually end up surviving. And then Muddy Water KOs us. I think I'd rather just play it safe here. Go for the Protect. And just EQ. I just don't want to risk losing Bronzong after all this work I've put in to set it up, right? Grim switches that, okay. Into Porygon, that's totally okay with me. We've seen Fake Tears and Reflect so far. Those are the only two moves. Oh, man. They actually end up tracing Levitate. And Feeny actually gets Protect off. Okay. Well, the Levitate trace is definitely a little unfortunate, but that's okay. Feeny will get another turn of recovery now as a result, which is quite nice for them. But the thing is, now you don't have the Grimmsnarl out, so it's not as scary. This is such an interesting match. Like, I could see this going 20 minutes, honestly, so get some popcorn, because we might be in this for a minute. I'm going to body press Porygon here, and I don't think Earthquake knocks out anyway, so I don't mind Rock Slide, because it gets us chip damage and also fishes for a flinch onto either Pokemon, both which would be rather valuable in this position. Yeah, that was a good play. I could have maybe read into a Porygon switching, but I don't mind, like, not trying to predict that here. Because I still think they struggle to do any damage into Bronzong right now. Especially because they, you know, at this point haven't gone for Fake Tears. We know their last one's going to be Xerneas, right? And the thing is that Feeny only has limited recovery. Sorry, they have Necrozma. We have Xerneas. Now, what I'm nervous about is this is Foul Play, Eerie Impulse, Porygon too, which I think is actually very likely the case here. The good thing is that they have not set up a light screen yet. Oh, EQ actually probably would have finished off Feeny there. Well, okay, we crit Porygon. Muddy Water does double connect. That's fine. Just hoping for no accuracy drops here, ideally. Okay, we survive with both. Yep. There's an accuracy drop. We do get the body press off, which is really nice. Makes me think they're Trick Rooming here. Ah, we were so close to KOing there. They do Trick Room. Interesting. Trick Room certainly makes some sense. Rain stops just at the perfect time. I feel like Trick Room honestly going up here is not bad for us right now, especially because Rain has stopped at the perfect time. So I actually survive a Muddy Water, I believe, with Bronzong and maybe with Landers as well. Meaning, I'm comfortable to just, I'm just nervous about missing with Landers now, but Body Press and a Porygon, and we're at what, +3 Spadef? It's just -1 accuracy, that's scary. Body Press and Earthquake here feels fine. Bronzong should outspeed Porygon 200 Trick Room. I'm glad we could finally showcase Bronzong a little bit, because I think it's a really cool Pokemon, and we just have not really ran into like the right matchups for it yet. But in this matchup, it makes so much sense. It's super good into things like Necrozma, right? That like can't deal much damage into you. Calyrex Ice Rider is another example of a matchup that I think it's very good in. But you know, the awkward thing for Xerneas here is obviously my opponent's restricted as a Steel type. That in itself is not great for it. Now, could still potentially put in some work, and had I led Xerneas in this game, we could have actually had some pretty good early tempo. Okay, Feeny just protects, that's fine. So we'll get the KO onto Porygon. This is where the game gets interesting now, because if you Muddy Water, you'll activate Weakness Policy on my Incineroar, so I could contemplate switching out into Incin just for the Weakness Policy activation, but I struggle to KO Feeny right now, which is the awkward thing. Yeah. And them having leftovers on Feeny has also been a little bit obnoxious because that with Reflect has made it more difficult. But looking at how much Rock Slide did previously, Earthquake I think would have finished off Feeny. So I could have just gone for EQ earlier rather than Rock Slide, and that would have given us a big advantage. Although truthfully, if we get a flinch onto either Pokemon there, we're also I think in really good shape. So I would assume Necrozma now comes out in this position. Ah, man, then the question is how much damage do I do your Feeny? Like, because of Reflect, it's so little, right? But I can cycle what Intimidates right now with Landers and Incin. I could also Protect Landers this next turn. Oh, you know what's cool? Protect Landers, reverse Trick Room. The only problem is I don't want to activate a Weakness Policy on the Necrozma, which I think will be their item. So, this is intense, but a game like this is always going to go on for a long time. So, as soon as you see, like, bulkier teams like this... Oh, they bring out Grim. Okay. That makes sense, because you could Fake Tears either Pokemon, right? You know what this makes me want to do, though, is now we actually in our position where we can maybe bring out Xerneas. Still 3 turns of Trick Room. We know this is Fake Tears. 2 turns of Reflect left. Like, I think we're equipped to Protect here and then switch out into Incineroar. I want to conserve Landers for Necrozma right now. And I want them to Muddy Water me because it will just activate my Weakness Policy right now. I just don't know how fast their Feeny is relative to us, but I feel like we should outspeed them under Trick Room. Okay, so the good thing is you can't Fake Tears Incin either way, right? So this covers for either option. Yep. Okay, so this will activate Policy. The main question is it a 2-hit KO onto us? It is. Ah, this is so close. Take back more leftovers. Recovery. Now I have Fake Out this next turn. Reflect is about to expire as well, but I can't KO Grim anyway, right? I would think Feeny almost always protects here. I would just be so shocked if it didn't protect. But Grim doesn't really scare me here much anyway, right? At best, you get a Spirit Break off. It would be nice to double up on a Grim here. I'm going to split my damage and play a little bit safer here. I'll Fake out the Feeny. I think Feeny protects, but I want to cover for it not protecting. Because I don't even know if Fake Out into Body Press is a knockout here. This game very realistically may go down to timer as well, by the way. Yeah, Fini does protect, but that's fine. At least now I know you can't protect next turn, unless you want to risk the 1/3 chance. Okay. That makes sense because they have Necrozma on their team, so Sucker Punch Reflect. Fake Tears. Oh, that's amazing damage from Body Press too. Okay, fantastic. Okay. I think we're in very good shape. Unless their Fini is indeed like min speed and outspeeds my Incineroar under Trick Room. That's my main fear right now. But Reflect wears off. With that, I'm actually going to double up on top of Fini, Body Press, and Flare Blitz. That also covers for Necrozma switch in. Yeah, they just go for Reflect, okay. I'm just hoping their Fini isn't super slow and it instant outspeeds it right now. Okay, perfect. This should get the knockout. Perfect. Okay, amazing. That is exactly what we're looking for. And this is what I just wanted to play a little bit calm and methodical in this game, and now, like, the Bronzong has just never fainted, right? So, Sucker Punch, Reflect on the Grim. Sucker Punch is really interesting. But it makes sense, right? Because now you can activate Policy on Necrozma. But even with Policy activated, it's not that scary. No more Trick Room. They have Reflect up once again, but we know at this point Body Press is just a KO onto the Grimmsnarl. And I don't mind... Do I actually want to Cycle Intimidates here? I actually think here it's fine to just Body Press Grimmsnarl and Flare Blitz Necrozma. Because I'll just get the knockout with either. They go for Sucker Punch, they're going to activate their own Policy. Yep, that's fine. The thing is, I don't think Necrozma can 3v1, right? So you could only knock out one of my 2 Pokemon here, most likely. Okay, it's going to be Rock Slide, yeah. So they're going for Flinches, which is certainly the right way to play this. But I think now Bronzong should just wall it completely. And now I get a free switch into Landers, and I can Earthquake as well. So it's looking pretty good, even if we flinch here, and we don't. Yeah, this was pure Bronzong domination, honestly. So it's pretty interesting. We didn't even need to bring our restricted Pokemon, but what's interesting is that we actually had a bunch of positions where the Xerneas was super good. So let's bring out Landorus. This gives us an Intimidate. Now I know Necrozma can get access to Swords Dance and Sunny Day. I did lose to that the other day. But I don't really think it can do enough to my Bronzong right now, right? So I think it's fine to just Body Press and Earthquake here. It may be smarter to just, like, double protect here. And even, like, withdraw Landorus out. Because I guess Landorus out into Xerneas is always good because Xern doesn't do any... Well, actually, they never light screened, right? So actually, a single Moonblast is not terrible damage I'll put into this. Yeah, but EQ does so much there, I think we should be good. Yeah, they're just going for more flinches. Okay, makes sense. But you will never do enough damage to Bronzong, so even if you flinch me infinitely, that won't win you the game. And we avoid another flinch. Okay, perfect. Alright, there's Body Press, and Moonblast should finish off Necrozma now. So, what a game. This was a really interesting one, where Bronzong stayed on the field since turn 1 and never left the field. And the reason for that is because my opponent just did not have good super effective damage into it, right? And so, this is the value of having like a really bulky steel type like Bronzong, for example, where, yeah, my opponent just didn't have very much for it. Fake Tears was actually the scariest thing, and I even mentioned that on turn 1 of the game, which was super interesting, right? But I didn't. It's not that common on Grimmsnarl. This game could have been a disaster if they had actually just gone like Fake Tears Geyser into Landorus on turn 1 of the match. So I don't know if I love how I approached it, but like that's the upside of using a Pokemon like Grimmsnarl or Whimsicott or any of the Prankster users in Best of 1. You have the element of surprise with your moveset. Next game, and it's a Seismitoad team. We had actually used Seismitoad pretty recently on Road to Rank, so pretty cool to go up against one of these. Xerneas is really good against everything that's not named Ferrothorn, so Ferrothorn's the main problem here, but we can Iron Defense up with Bronzong to deal with it, which is cool. Typically, the main thing to worry about is, with Xerneas, is just eating up like a huge Water Spout pre-Geomancy. Seismitoad's actually a pretty big issue for us as well. It's actually a very big issue. I have no good damage into it. I might just get swept by the Toad here, actually. I think Seismitoad is a very good pick for my opponent. So, I like the idea of Thundurus plus Xerneas. Because I can max Airstream and maybe even Geomancy. Lucky plus Xerneas is interesting as well, actually. I think I need to bring both electric types here, and then I think I need to bring Bronzong. Instant's terrible into the water types, and then Landorus also is not particularly good here. I could bring Landorus if I wanted to make like a hard call out that they don't one-shot my Landorus with Geyser turn 1 and expect me to switch out or something, and then change the weather with a max Rockfall. But I don't think it's a consistent strategy in best of 1. That's something I'd only do based off like knowing player tendencies or having played a game against my opponent already. And I think you need like both electric types here are just valuable into the Kyogre. Xerneas is probably our best Seismitoad answer, and then Bronzong's probably our best Ferrothorn answer, but the issue with that is there are a lot of conditions, right? It's like I need one Pokemon to beat one to beat another, whereas for my opponent, like Seismitoad like looks really good against all 6 of my Pokemon. So this is a great example of just how sometimes team matchups can play out, right? Where I truthfully just don't have a good answer to Seismitoad. I don't have a Pokemon with a grass type attack, so I've got nothing that can one-shot it, and it hits my entire team for neutral super effective damage, and they're going to lead Kyogre and Seismitoad, which makes plenty of sense here. So the upside here is at least we're Assault Vested with Thundurus, and so turn 1's already really interesting. Man, I actually feel like them being Scarf Ogre also makes sense here, to which I might just get demolished on Thundurus turn 1. So the question immediately is actually, do I want to make a read here and straight up just Geomancy with Xerneas? I mean, if there's Scarf, your place to just Water Spout and max Geyser Thundurus, right? I can probably survive that, but not by very much HP. Oh man, I have nothing for the Toad other than Xerneas actually getting Geomancy off. Yeah, this is really bad. Okay. I'm going for Max Lightning and Geomancy, and basically what I'm saying here is I'm hoping you're not Choice Scarf Kyogre, or you switch. That actually works for us as well. Into Ferrothorn, okay. I'll take it. Although I was so close to Max Airstreaming there. And the thing is, like, they probably just Geyser into the Xerneas slot right now, right? Ugh. The play I wanted to go for initially was Max Airstream, Kyogre, and Protect with Xerneas, but had I gone for that, we actually would be in a decent spot, because then I can... Well, I don't know how fast Seismitoad is, and whether or not +1 Thundurus could outspeed +2 Seismitoad. It depends on how much speed investment they have, but I want to think if they're max speed, they still outspeed us. Now, the thing is that Xerneas is max HP here, so I think we can survive. But at what cost is the question. And this is like, the thing in a matchup like this is I have to basically outplay my opponent consistently. Like, I can't just win off making safe plays, but turn 1, there's no, like, quote-unquote safe play to make. Okay. Oh man, if I actually just click Max Airstream there, I think we'd actually be in a really nice spot, wildly enough. Next turn I'm going to Max Airstream, I think, and Max Airstream into Ferrothorn and Protect with Xerneas. Like, at least I get the Geomancy off, but at what cost? I'm also curious about the Ferrothorn set. Iron Defense, Leech Seed, Body Press, Protect makes the most sense. If that's the case, you actually can't knock out Xerneas in one hit. Yeah, they are leftovers here. The Xerneas Protect this turn is so obvious, but I think I still go for it. Just to ensure I outspeed Seismitoad next turn. Just because the Xerneas here is so slow, has so little speed investment, I don't actually think it outspeeds Seismitoad, and it would be a waste to Geomancy just to not get an actual attack off with this thing. And we should survive a Geyser, an Ooze, or any attack they go for through Protect. And even if they target Thundurus and make a read, that's the one thing we don't. 54 down to 32. So that would have picked up a knockout, right? Oh, man. Yeah, them having Max Airstream makes this kind of a disaster for us. That's really bad. Unless we do outspeed Xerneas here, but I don't think we do, because we're so bulky. Unless their Seismitoad is a little speed investment. That's what we're hoping for. Alright, there's Iron Defense number 1, too. Yeah. Seismitoad, and it's like, this was the issue, right? I needed Xerneas just to deal with Seismitoad. Their Ferrothorn deals with my Xerneas. So if you look at how like the matchups like work around, like I need one specific Pokemon to deal with one Pokemon my opponent's end. This Seismitoad just looks so good against everything I have. I think this is honestly probably a done deal. I don't really see a way out of it unless they end up being slower than my Xern. I needed to Airstream on turn 1 of the game. But I think Seismitoad will just outspeed us here. Yeah. Oh, man. Well played. It was them having max Airstream, which I guess isn't even, like, super shocking. It helps them so much in a scenario like this, though, so it's just a shame for Xerneas to run into it. Okay. Don't really see a good way to win this game at this point. Well, Bronzong can still put in work. The issue is just I can't even KO the Seismitoad. I've got nothing for it. It's like Instant and Landers wouldn't have offered us anything either, right? I needed to just use Xerneas immediately. And had I just max Airstream turn 1, this would have been a completely different outcome, sadly enough. Because I think if I actually eliminated Seismitoad, we could win with Aleki and Bronzong. But, you know what? I'm not going to give up yet. I think it's still doable. It's just them being Life Orb and then fitting Max Airstream onto the moveset. Because, like, Seismitoad gets so many good moves. And that was just not a possibility I had considered. Because the whole plan was to outspeed with Xerneas after a single speed boost. But the fact they can just match my speed boost caused all the issues, right? We did dodge a Leech Seed, which is kind of fortunate. Okay, so you would think they go for, like, what, a Muddy Water here? I think I need to just KO Seismitoad right now. Oh, but the thing is, if I superpower, then I can't even KO the Kyogre, man. I went for superpower Iron Defense, but it is physical Seismitoad. That makes so much more sense. That is really cool. Wow. Okay, I honestly wouldn't say it's completely over, but I think with them having Leech Seed and Iron Defense, I just can never beat Ferrothorn anymore. This is almost as bad of a matchup as can be for a Xerneas Bronzong team. Because Instant and Landers are just completely neutralized. But this is why, like, a Pokemon like Seismitoad is so cool in the format, right? I also just wasn't expecting Physical Seismitoad in the slightest. But that's just because I've only used Seismitoad once, and I used a special set, obviously. What's the physical move that you get? Is it like Aerial Ace? Or is it Bounce? Fly? I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to Protect and Body Press now, but the issue here is that Ferrothorn now gets just more recovery than I do, right? Stomping Tantrum. So it's Water, Ground, Flying. I just wonder what their fourth attack is. This game is still potentially winnable, by the way, with the Lecky, like, trying to get a full pair onto Ferrothorn. I think it's very unlikely. But, yeah. I think Seismitoad's honestly really underrated in the format, so I'm really cool to see my opponent, like, fully utilize it. And physical Seismitoad at that as well. Just because Special is primarily the, you know, the version I've seen and used before. If I knew her for physical, then maybe I could actually have brought Intimidate into the game with Landers and Instant as a switch-in. The thing is, like, in a matchup like this, I have to make a big play. Turn 1, like, if they just stay in with Kyogre and I get the Geomancy off, that is a big play, but I think Airstream Protect. I was just nervous about Water Spout and Geyser double up onto Thundurus. And actually, since they were physical Thundurus, or physical Seismitoad, that actually would just win them the game turn 1 if I protect Xerneas. So, like, I never have a safe play here. And sometimes that's just what happens when you play Pokemon, right? You run into a matchup where you don't have a good solution. And it's like, even knowing all of this information from my opponent's end, I still would, like, I anticipated Seismitoad Kyogre as a lead, still didn't have a great solution into it. Maybe Aleki is a little bit better, maybe Bronzong, but this is a matchup in which, like, you look at our team, and there's just nothing that resists water, right? And so my opponent's able to, like, kind of take advantage of that, right? And that's just how it is sometimes in Pokemon. It's just good team construction. Your best play now is to fake out and body press into the Alecki, right? So my best bet is to go for a double protect and then hope to like crit a body press here onto Incin. The odds are slim, but I'm not going to give up until Alecki faints. Yeah, we failed the double. Body press should KO us now, and that should be a good game. See, what's interesting here is, let's say we actually get the double protect off, and then my body press... It is Chople Berry Incineroar. Wow. Certainly some surprises today. Very interesting. Physical Seismitoad. I want to take a look at Pikalytics real quick after this game, just because like Seismitoad's already such a rare Pokemon. Well, the game is just over now. But you can see, even if they didn't have Chople Berry, like I said, we needed to get a double protect and crit off there, so the odds of winning there were just so slim. But that was a really fascinating match as well. Yeah, and this is why, like, generally it's good to have at least, like, one Pokemon on your team that can resist or is immune to, like, every type. But Seismitoad's also, like, in a matchup like this, right, like, for example, most water types in the format we can deal with. It just so happens to be Seismitoad. Like, we have dual electrics, and so normally, like, you can get away with not having a water resistance or immunity because you don't expect to run. Like, the most common water types you can beat easily, right? Kyogre gets demolished by Thundurus and the Alecki, and even Xerneas has, like, a decent matchup into it with Electro Whip into Geomancy. But it's the Seismitoad specifically that completely turns things around. So, yeah, let's take a look at Pikalytics and just check out how people run Seismitoad. Like, this is what I do when I lose against Pokemon in sets that I don't really expect, and helps me better understand how people are approaching it in the metagame. So, let's take a quick look. So, looking at Seismitoad's Pikalytics page, this is the moves that I was expecting. Earth Power, Grass Knot, Sludge Bomb, and Scald. And then they've got Protect, Hydro Pump. So those are the 6 most common moves. You can see the special variants by far the most common here. 76.5% are modest, but honestly, this is more physical than I'd expected, like 23%. Seismitoad is just such a rare Pokemon to begin with that there's not that much usage, but... yeah, physical Seismitoad's not something that was really on my radar, and it makes sense, right? It actually has a higher base attack than special attack, but the reason why you typically expect special is because there's so much Intimidate in the format. But the thing is, Pokemon like Seismitoad doesn't have to worry about Intimidate as much because it's really good against the key Intimidators in Incineroar and Landorus T. So physical makes a ton of sense, it's just that I'd only used and seen special before. So you can see here, 25% is Hydro Pump, that's the last special move, but everything under that, 21% for Liquidation, EQ, Bounce, and Drain Punch. So, obviously my opponent had Liquidation, EQ, and Bounce, so the last move was probably Drain Punch or the Protect here. And Seismitoad's partners here all make a lot of sense. These are all just common Pokemon, that are used on rain teams. And Expert Belt, Life Orb, AV feels like really the by far best 3 items. Maybe you could use Rendo Berry, but I think these just make the most sense. And so, by the way, it turns out that Seismitoad only gets access to one flying type attack in its entire moveset, and that's Bounce. And so as soon as you see Max Airstream, you should start thinking about it being physical a little bit more. I just didn't even know it got access to any Max Airstreams at all, or any flying type attacks. And that's, once again, the strength of having a move like that, especially on a Max Pokemon, and one that's already speedy like Seismitoad, right? And so, yeah, what was also unfortunate for us here is because we were using bulky Xerneas, Seismitoad space speed is actually not exactly the highest. And so if our Xerneas had more speed investment, then we would have been able to just outspeed Seismitoad, get that, Moonblast into it, and then maybe a Moonblast plus Max Airstream can KO it. Truthfully, the endgame is still really difficult, but at least my body press is super effective against Ferrothorn. But the thing is, Ferrothorn with Leech Seed and Leftovers and Protect and Iron Barbs probably stalls out that game anyway. So I ran into 2 Pokemon that were really tough to deal with. Now, normally, if I don't see Seismitoad in Team Preview, I can bring in Incineroar, I can bring in Landorus to deal with the Ferrothorn, but both of those are very, very weak into Seismitoad. So this is an example of good team construction, but this is also an example of a matchup where sometimes you just acknowledge, I was like, okay, is Seismitoad and Ferrothorn super meta? Not really. So if I have a positive matchup against a lot of other things in the metagame, but I don't have a positive matchup against this one very particular niche combination, that's something like you might be willing to accept in the team building process, right? Because no team is ever perfect and every team will have bad matchups. It's just a question of how frequently you expect to run into those bad matchups, and something like Seismitoad Ferrothorn is not exactly something I would expect to go up against very frequently. So definitely learned a thing or two about physical Seismitoad today. So 1, physical Seismitoad exists, and 2, Bounce is the only flying type attack that it gets in its move pool. Part of me was thinking maybe it was a mix set where you have Bounce, but then like 3 of the special attacks and you just drop like Grass Knot or Sludge Bomb, for example, for Bounce. because it gives you like a physical way to boost your speed while also still running like all the special attacks. But once again, Seismitoad's base attack actually is higher than its special attack, so physical makes a ton of sense, and especially because their team is very good in deterring both Incineroar and Landorus T. Like, you just don't want to bring either of those into Seismitoad plus Kyogre. So, yeah, really interesting to run into Latoad, and I think my opponent played that really nicely as well. And key thing is just having a better turn 1. We never had a super safe turn 1, unfortunately, but the reality is, given how the matchup looks, that's just how it is, right? And like I said, if I protect Xerneas and they stay in with Kyogre and double up onto Thundurus, especially if they're faster with the Kyogre and their Choice Scarf, it's just a disaster. So I think I have to basically hope for them to not be Choice Scarfed, because if they're Scarfed, I pretty much always lose, I think. So my play definitely was not the best play, because if they're Scarfed, there's no answer anyway, so I just have to hope for them to not be Scarfed. And then them, like me going Airstream Protect actually would have worked out quite nicely. Although, actually, even if I Airstream and Protect there, like, because they're physical Seismitoad, it's like Geomancy doesn't even accomplish anything for us, right? It's not like I get an increased stat boosts either. So, yeah. Sometimes you're just going to run into matchups like that, and that's how things are going to play out. But really cool to see this Pokemon come out. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Leave a like if you enjoy. I'm looking forward to closing out the year with some more fun content. And then, yeah, here's to a great 2022. So see you all soon. All right, peace.